They're not bad people.
You're just not going to where you're going.
I didn't really know what to do with it. It sounds like such an obvious thing. It's the complete polar opposite. I can 100% say
I didn't even try.
Lesson one is really simple, is that I was not treating my business how I should have been, which is that it wasn't where I wanted it yet. It was the best it's ever been. I was making the most money I ever wanted. And from now on, I am treating that business that it is not where I want it to be, no matter how successful it is. So therefore, I keep pushing and keep striving because I took my eye off the ball. I didn't focus on keeping a full pipeline. I was just purely focusing on the work. I wasn't focusing on my own marketing because that's the busiest we've ever been. I didn't really know what to do with it. I was like, oh my God, we're making all this revenue. We're doing all these projects. We've got all this work on. But I didn't think about when them contracts came to an end. And it sounds dumb. I was going to my 5th year. I think I would have learned that by that point. But because I'd never been through that experience before, it was my first time doing it. Which is why now, coming into 2024, I've got a full pipeline. I've got people starting with us this month. It's the complete polar opposite of where I was last year. Business has to be treated as if it is still a newborn baby, no matter how successful it becomes, until it gets to that point where I can be like, done, I am happy. We're gonna keep pushing because I will not be in that place again. That also ties into number 2, which is a life lesson, which also ties into a book called The 48 Laws of Power. I'm presuming probably a lot of you have read it, which is simply make sure that your clients and whoever depend on you so you basically don't become expendable. They want you, they don't want rid of you. They want to keep hold of you. And that's once again one thing I wasn't focusing on. I did it a lot for my clients, just never focusing on doing it for me. But also I noticed that people had done this with me. I'd become dependent on them and I wasn't mad about it. That's just the way it is. Now, every single time throughout this whole year, I'm going to make sure that people are dependent on me. And that can sound toxic and I get it. I completely get it. But it is the way that my business will grow and it is the way that you are in control of everything that is hopefully going on around you as much as humanly possible. So I guess lesson 2 just time with lesson 1. But I learned that once again throughout the year. I realized that there were things happening in the world that were out of my control, tying in with, just politics and everything that was going on as well. And then the people around me were being affected by that, but I was the first thing that they could get rid of. Whereas I want to make sure they won't get rid of me at all. Listen, it sounds like such an obvious thing, but it was such a massive thing that I needed to learn. Now, I know pretty much everyone around me is going nowhere at all. So yeah. Number 2 is simply make sure that people depend on you so you cannot become expendable. Number 3 is one of the best things I've ever learned. And I talked about this when I was on a panel discussion. There is no taking without giving, which you consistently have to give value. And this is a lesson, not really that I learned in 2023, but if anything, it became more apparent at the fact that I just do this. I was like, I always do this. Whenever I see anyone, I always give. And naturally, before I even try to do anything else at all, I will keep giving until I know that I am able to take, whether that's a business client, an opportunity, but you name it. Always give is the biggest thing I learned last year. In business, a potential client, you want to give them a lot to the point Alex Hormozi says that it is painful doing it. You feel like you should be charging them for giving them it. That's when you're in that sweet spot. And I really do stand by that because there is no taking without giving. Bear that in mind. Number 4 is trying to push myself into groups of people when it is obvious I either don't fit or I'm not wanted there. Back end of 2022, I started to connect with a lot of new people, once again, networking, getting to know more people my own age. And most of them, if not all of them at first, were very, very, very welcoming. I've just never been in that before. And I noticed myself trying to push into this in a, please, be friends with me. I know I can bring to you guys and blah, blah, blah. But the difference is that I was excited to find a tribe, my group of people. But in life and in business, mental maturity, and they weren't, which isn't a bad thing for them because the other people around them were all at that level, which is why they all got on. You're only as good as the people around you. So yeah, lesson number 4 was simply not forcing myself onto people's tables. And you need to realize that if there's people around you that you're forcing yourself to still be around, even without really realizing that you're forcing yourself to be around them, but you realize that maybe they know nothing about you or nothing about your life, nothing about your aspirations, Chris Rock gives the perfect example of a rocket going into space. When a rocket reaches a certain altitude, the boosters fall off, which is these friends. They're not bad people, they're just not going to where you're going. And you need to bear that in mind. On our life lesson with that, this is point 4.A. Don't let people feel left out. I haven't, because I've worked on this since about 2021. If you're ever at an event, you're ever hosting an event, or you're ever at a social gathering or with people, if you leave someone left out, you're a dick. Point 5 is focus on the 80% that you already have and not the 20% that you are chasing. And by this, I mean dopamine, good times, and knowing when to leave or go home. This doesn't just tie in with nights out, this ties in with social events, having a good time with friends. And after about 3 months in a row, when business was getting busy again, I noticed that I was going to a lot of social events and doing a lot of different things. And because I was having such a good time, I would just stay too long. And then at the end of it, I wouldn't leave on a high. I wouldn't leave not on a high. I was like, I should have gone home half an hour ago. I maybe shouldn't have done this to this level or anything like that, because I was chasing the 20%. The 80% is good enough. And I, from now on, will always leave at the 80%. Perfect example of this for me is that I play badminton, part of a badminton club. The sessions are normally on for 2 hours. I enjoy it every single time. I leave at an hour and a half. Because I know by that point that I've had a good time, I've had enough games, and if I stay the extra half an hour, I'm going to get home later than I wanted to. I'm going to end up having maybe a bad game before I leave when I've had so many good games. So having that good time and then leaving on a shit note and getting back later and having my dinner later and going to bed later and then not being able to get up in the morning at the time that I want. All these things because I chased that 20%. I know half an hour out of 2 hours is not 20% before you correct me, but you see my point. 80%, stop chasing the 20. Point 6 is to fall on deaf ears. I know that throughout my life, not just last year, I have a very, very common phrase that I use, which is, can I give you my 50 pence? I have learned I need to stop doing that. The reason why is, firstly, some people don't ask for it, but they don't feel like they can say no once you ask them that sentence, is I will give my advice, my opinion, my thoughts, my love, my affection to lots of different things. But what I'm sharing is falling on deaf ears because these people do not care. They are not going to action it and so on. However, what I've come to terms with is that if I do that, I can't get annoyed or be upset when they don't do it, when they don't action it. And that's a really hard one because with my ADHD, one of the big things I want to do is just share because I'm excited and I want to do all these things, but it's fallen on deaf ears. If people even ask for your help, ask yourself first, is it going to fall on deaf ears? Because if it is, don't waste your breath. And then point 7 is consistency and discipline are 2 words that I need to start using in my vocabulary every day. I think a lot of us could probably do with them 2 words in our vocabulary every day. The reason why was because when that business went to crap for them 6 months, that is genuinely because I just fell out of it. I needed to get a grip, I needed to grow up, and I needed to keep that consistency and discipline. By the end of 2024, going to 2025, if someone asked you for a word to describe your year, what do you want that word to be? I decided for 2024 is consistency. Whereas last year, I could 100% say that I didn't even try. So there's my 7 lessons for the year. They may seem random as hell to you, but hopefully they resonate with someone. This year is going to be awesome. It's going to be a great year. And if you're not sure on how to make it a great year, check out the video I made around here somewhere. Thank you so much. What's your life lessons for 2023? If you're happy to share them below, please do. And other than that, ciao for now.